Shivishaya Uchu Tvam Nastapa Paramam Tayaratyatejo Nastapa Paramam Atatyada Atmatejo Yene Ramadi Purushatma Katam Sasarta Sarta Tadvipraluptam Amunadya Sharanyapala Raksha Grihita Vapusha Punaranvamam Staha Shirishaya Uchu Vamnastapa Paramamata Yadatma Tejo Yene Ramari Purushatma Gatam Sasarta Advipraluptam Amunadya Sharanyapala Raksha Grihita Vapusha Punaranvamangstha Shirishaya Uchu
Nastapa Parama Artayadatmatejo
Nastapa Paramamata Yadapatejo
Nedamadi Purushatmakatam Sasarta
Namadi Purushatma Gatam Sasarta
Vipraluttamamda Unnadya Sharanyapam
Tadvipraluptam Amunadya Sharanyapala
Shagita Vapusha Punaran
Grihita Vapusha Punaranvamangstha
Shririshaya Uchu
Shirishaya Uchu
Nastapa Paramata Yadatma Tejo
Nastapa Paramamata Yadatma Tejo
Yedam Purushatma Sasar
Yene Namadi Purushatma Gatam Sasarta
Vipraluttam Amunadya Saranyapala
Tadvipraluptam Amunadya Sharanyapala
Raksha Vihita Vapusa Punaram
Raksha Grihita Vapusha Punaranvamangstha Shirishaya Uchu. The great sages said, Tvam, you, Naha, power, Tapa, austerity, Paramam, topmost, Atha, instructed, Yat, which, Atmatejaha, your spiritual power, Yena, by which, Idam, this material world, Adi Purusha, O Supreme Original Personality of Godhead, Atmagatam, merged within yourself, Sasarta, you created, Tat, that process of austerity and penance, Vipraluptam, stolen, Amuna, by that demon Hiranyakashipu, Adya, now, Sharanyapala, O Supreme Maintainer of those who need to be sheltered, Raksha Agrihita Vapusha, by your body which you accept to give protection. Punah, again, Anavamangstam. You have approved.
approved.
Translation of purple prize of English. Prabhupada. John. All the saintly persons present offered their prayers in this way. O Lord, O Supreme Maintainer of those sheltered by your lotus feet, O Original Personality of Godhead, the process of austerity and penance in which you instructed us before is the spiritual power of your very self. It is by austerity that you create the material world, which lies dormant within you. This austerity was almost stopped by the activities of this demon. But now, by yourself appearing in the form of the Shingadev, which is meant just to give us protection, and by killing this demon, you have again approved the process of austerity. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The living entities wandering within the jurisdiction of the 8,400,000 species of life get the opportunity for self-realization in the human form and gradually in such other elevated forms as those of the demigods, kinnaras, and charanas, as will be described below. I'll just do piece by piece, sentence at a time, otherwise I forget. So, Prabhupada always explained, great emphasis, that there's 8,400,000 species of life, not 8,400,000 in one species, but precisely, scientifically approved knowledge from the Vedas that explain that there's exactly 8,400,000 species of life, which is actually quite amazing because there was a young fellow, a young devotee here, not so young now, he's working, he's 30 years old. He said that he's a PhD in biology, so I forget his name, and very nice fellow. And you can imagine how much they're endeavoring to discover species of life. If a scientist discovers a new species of life, some microbe somewhere under the ocean or something, he becomes famous. They'll put his name in a book. They'll give the name, maybe they'll even give his name to that species of life. And so maybe he worked his whole life to try to discover one new species of life. And all we have to do is read the Vedic literature, and we already know. We already know that there's not 8,400,000 and two. There's exactly 8,400,000, and we know that there's out of that exactly 400,000 are human forms of life. But human forms of life are not just what we see here present on that. Some of them are here on this planet, but it includes all the other higher planets that have human-like form of life. So that's what the 400,000 species of human life are in all the different higher planets. And what's the special quality of that human form of life? Prabhupada doesn't spend too much time speaking about the other 8 million, because the other 8 million are all forms of life. They're all forms of life, starting from animals, mammals, birds, beasts, reptiles, fish, aquatics, insects, all these other forms of life. So what is the difference between these two of human forms and the other 8 million forms? You would think there's 8 million. But it's only the human form that has the opportunity to inquire. As Sanatana Goswami, a great devotee from 500 years ago, great follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he was approaching Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, despite the fact that he was very, very learned. He was from a very high class Brahmin family. He had become a governor of Bengal, the assistant governor, minister, and he spoke many languages, so many things. But he approached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with the proper attitude. He said, "Everyone is telling me I'm a great scholar, I'm so exalted and everything, but I don't even know who I am. I'm not even sure who I am. Can you please explain me who I am? Why am I suffering? What happens after death? Where am I going? Please explain these things to me. And that's the mentality of the human form that a human being should have. That I have the opportunity, the intelligence to inquire, to resolve these questions. These are the questions of life, not how much money I can make, not how I can find a nice wife, how I can find a nice job. The real questions of life is who am I? Why am I here? What's the goal of being here in this lifetime? Is something happening after this lifetime, after death? Is that if you don't, and why am I suffering? Because I may be very intelligent, I may be very capable, I may have accumulated so many things, wealth, but I'm still suffering. I'm still suffering old age, disease, death. I'm still suffering threefold miseries, adhyatmic, adhidaivic, adhibotic. So what's my big claim to fame? I'm so happy. I've figured everything out. No, actually, we're all in a very difficult situation. But that's the great value of the human form, that you can resolve these questions and get out of the suffering condition. So Prabhupada, he must repeat this, I don't know how many times in all of his books, again and again. Human form of life is meant for self-realization. Take advantage of the human form of life. You're all living here in this amazing city. I hadn't been back here in many years. And one month ago, we went around visiting many places. And it's actually, because you live here, so you don't notice so much, but it's quite impressive that there's so many, it's all young people. It's just thousands of young people walking here and there, trying to get ahead. We went to visit the previous temple before purchasing this temple. The previous temple was in another neighborhood, so called North Beacon Street, near where Boston University is. And it was interesting because I was being careful because I didn't know. I've been away from America for a long time, but I know if you knock on people's doors, sometimes they may look at you. So, but he was determined. He wanted to go in so he could see how the temple was. Because I remember all the places which room was the temple room. I knew all of the building inside and out. So he was determined. He walked up the door and bang, bang, bang. He badly opened the door. He was lucky. He was a student. But it was actually Krishna's arrangement that this student was Indian student, and but he was Muslim, and but he was extremely friendly and very cooperative. He said, "Sure, if you want to come in, you can look around." He was very nice. And many things are still there. Where Prasad was there, it's a living room. There's the stairs, same stairs are there going up where the temple was on the first floor. On the first floor, I can never remember because in Europe, there's ground floor, first floor, second floor in Europe. So, because I live in Europe, I've lived in Europe for a long time, and yeah, second floor. Yeah, first floor was the Prasadam hall. Second floor was the temple, big long temple, the whole length of the building was the temple. And this young man, he was slightly Muslim, and when we invited him to come to the temple, he said, "Yeah, sure, I'd love to come and see you." It was very Krishna arranged that he got the opportunity to offer some service that shows and remember, and because now we found out that next year or within a few months they're going to knock it down. It won't be there anymore. So they're going to knock it down. And that building and the building next to it, very similar kinds of buildings, old wood frame houses. They're going to knock them both down and build big apartment buildings. So we had a very fortunate opportunity to see it, because it was the second temple here in Boston. The first temple was actually just a rented small storefront, like many of the temples were at the beginning of the movement. And they bought this temple on Beacon Street, and then after 5 years, I guess, 4 or 5 years. Well, the temple, about this temple here. So we can have some history of it. And he was surprised. And then another young fellow, also from Indian background, he was Hindu, but he said, "Oh, you're the ISKCON, yeah." And we said, "Yeah, this was the ISKCON Hare Krishna temple many years ago." They were like, "We're living in this. Used to be the temple." They were quite happy and surprised, happily surprised, you could say. So what does that have to do with what we're saying?
Which year we got this?
It's something around 74. I'm pretty sure around 74.
And when you were president of 72 to 75.
Yeah.
So there
A little interruption, brief interruption, but I was always going out and traveling book distribution because I'm not a big manager. It wasn't meant to be my calling or my dharma. But my dharma was to organize and facilitate and do book distribution. I went to Italy and they made me in charge of all the book distribution in Italy, which had over 100 devotees going out every day, full time, 8 hours a day, distributing books. And that's been my preferred dharma.
So we took this place because we wanted bigger place.
Want a bigger place, and we wanted a nicer place, and we wanted to be in the mood in those days was you have to be in the center of the city where everybody could come to the temple. And it's a nicer place. That place was, I think they fixed it up, but it's kind of a rundown old building. It's one of those wood frame, and it was always falling apart. So we wanted to get a nicer place, bigger place, more in the center where we can go on Harinam, right, walking, by walking. It was with that idea. Nowadays, maybe we think that maybe we should have a place on the outskirts so that people with their car, they can drive and park at the temple. But some of Shishi Radha Gopi Ballava, they wanted to come here, they wanted to be available, especially for all of you young people, students, who probably don't have cars, and you probably, if it was out in the outskirts, you probably wouldn't have, you have a hard time to come on Sunday. But here, because you all live here, you're studying here, working here, that's very practical. So somehow
So Prabhupada came to that.
they came to that place, and the little storefront that was even before. And then he didn't come to Boston.
And how we got funds for this?
Distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, going out 8-10 hours a day, all the devotees, Prabhupadas. There was no donations, there was no congregation, there was no Indian congregation. Only exclusively, isn't that right? Exclusively going out every day, myself included, distributing Prabhupada's books, collecting donations. And so,
And we purchased two, this building and next.
now this the other one was purchased after later. No, we just purchased this one, and then number 70 was purchased after I was already gone. Purchased later and lost later, unfortunately. Always had more place for some of you to stay. But and these places, why are we working so hard to make these kind of places? Vanamani, why is he not sleeping day and night, working, endeavoring so much, giving his life and soul? Because these places are places where people can come and hear about Krishna. That's what Prabhupada wanted. The temple means it's an educational institution. It's a place where people can come and hear and chant about Krishna, become Krishna conscious, learn how to practice bhakti yoga in your own life by seeing a practical example in the temple. And he was very happy very happy with the devotees who dedicated their lives, dedicated all of their energy even in their family, dedicating all that energy for establishing the temple, where it's not just for we worship the deities in the temple, but especially temple. Prabhupada also said the temple is like a base, like a military base, where all of the devotees can be there and then go out to distribute Prabhupada's books. He said they're like in wartime. They always have a base where all the soldiers stay, so they can become strong, and then they go out to combat Maya, combat material energy, and go out to distribute Prabhupada's books and preach Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada especially was so happy when devotees would take responsibility to spread Krishna consciousness. Take responsibility means you're sacrificing your normal desire to simply think about your own life, get a nice job, think about your own life and family and everything. But when someone was willing, as in Prabhupada's time when he was present, devotees were willing to say we could get a little more response, and willing to dedicate their lives to. It's not so popular anymore. In those days, probably grihastas, family people, brahmacharis, everyone was dedicated. And Prabhupada said that dedicated life is wonderful life, very nice, best life, dedicated to spreading Krishna consciousness. Any question about that? Any thoughts or inspirations?
So, what would be the general schedule of the temple for general devotees from morning to night? Those days when you were
Morning is always the same program. Mangalarti, Japa, most people chant Japa, Puja, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class, reading the deities. That was morning program was always the same. Actually, it wasn't always the same. Morning, but when I moved in the temple in San Francisco, there wasn't a morning program. All we did, I don't know why, but Prabhupada hadn't fully established morning program as of that time, it was 1970. And then there was some crisis, it's a long story, but there was some crisis, there was some confusion amongst devotees. They had misunderstood Srila Prabhupada, they became deviated. But at that time, it was around September 1970, Prabhupada said, now we have to have a strong morning program. And he started that. Everyone has to get up at 4 o'clock. The program done ever since then. But from 1966 to 1970, it wasn't always like that. But from then on, because of that spiritual weakness, the devotees they weren't becoming strong spiritually, so they got all a little off. And so he said, no, now everybody stop morning program every morning, evening program, Bhagavad Gita, Kirtan. And then during the day, at that time, when I was there, at that time during the day, it was, some devotees did the pujai. There was one special devotee named Srimati Devi. She's amazing. I'm sorry she's not able, her health is not so good to be able to come, but she was doing pujari, Radha Gopi Vallabha, day and night. Even if she was sick, she wasn't always in good health. Sometimes she was sick with fever, but and devotees she insisted they would carry her downstairs. She was upstairs. She would carry her down to the temple, and she would dress the deities, even when she had a fever or whatever. So there's some special devotees in that time. And during the day, everyone was going out, chanting and distributing books. But it was a very simple program. There wasn't so many different programs. Sometimes we do a program at the universities, sometimes not so. But primarily traveling, book distribution. That was the main program. And just by doing that, we're able to buy this temple.
The rule there was like for Sankirtan and book distribution, like Kirtan party was different.
No, they were both going on.
Well,
Yeah, together. And some, there was also devotees who were just going on a distribution full time, mostly brahmacharis, traveling, also traveling. Sometimes we would travel all the way down to Florida in the wintertime, because as you know, Boston has that problem. The winter's quite severe winter here in Boston. But devotees, sometimes we would travel with other brahmacharis. We traveled down south.
and there was a kitchen team separate. They would it was like
Again,
intense.
somebody was cooking. Yeah, or Abdulash was cooking. Usually one of the devotees were really dedicated. They were, somebody was cooking everything. About one person. One devotee was doing puja, worship of the deities, and then everyone else. Maximum, most devotees were going out distributing books, because that's what we know that Prabhupada was most happy. He was very enthusiastic, very strong desire for the devotees to distribute his books, because that's how people will change. That's how people will actually come to Krishna consciousness and change their life by hearing of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And that philosophy, Prabhupada, he dedicated. He wasn't even hardly sleeping at all night, translating and commentary on most important books. And that's why he emphasized and he wanted us to read the books just as much as he wanted us to distribute the books. So the education and the study of Srila Prabhupada's books is just as important as distributing them. If you just distribute them but you don't read them, that's the point. So both are there, but so everyone was dedicated to that. And somehow it was Boston temple was always famous as a brahmachari temple, most primarily. Other temples, New York, and it's always been like that. Maybe one, two ladies were staying at the temple, but it was mostly the brahmachari temple. In fact, it was kind of famous as a brahmachari temple. And I beg forgiveness for any of them that if they weren't taken care of, the Matajis in those days. Sometimes they were everyone was very young. Everyone was young, and they gave up their life and everything to live in the temple. They didn't. They gave up their dedicated their call it, their yes, material life and their plans for I think in Italian, so you have to forgive me. More of my life in Italy than I have in the Americas. Yeah, everyone was all of you wouldn't even think about not finishing at least your BA, what to speak of your master's and probably your doctorate. When your parents would be unbelievable, unimaginable that they've sacrificed so much energy to send you to all the way over here, and you're not going to finish your studies. But in those days, everyone was dedicated to everything. I'm not recommending it. It's better that you finish your studies and your what's the word? Your degree. Thank you. Get your degree. It's better that you do that. I should probably get married. I'm not saying discouraging brahmachari. You can stay, remain brahmachari. You Prabhupada said very clearly, said you could avoid so many problems. But in somehow or other, if you're not able to, that's okay. But then better you finish and you prepare yourself. If you're gonna be married, then better be prepared. So let's finish. What time is it? Oh, we only have 5 minutes. I'll finish reading.
We have a question. I was just asking if you remember the point about the PhD devotee in biology, mentioning that it's nice to 8,400,000.
Yeah, but I mean, that may be his job. You know, so he has to maintain himself, so that's his job. But mostly Srila Prabhupada was very much encouraged, especially the last couple of years that he was present. He was given all his energy and emphasis on science and proving, because he knew very well that everyone was worshiping scientists more than anyone, and they were kind of controlling the world situation. And because they're all atheists primarily, now they're changing. It's changing. Some of them are accepting it, that there has to be, it's so logical that there has to be higher intelligence, a supreme person. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense that there's just random. So the devotees, it's fine that they're studying science, but they should use that knowledge that they are acquiring by studying science to show that there has to be a supreme person behind who's controlling scientifically. It's nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with faith, blind faith. It's just logical that everything is so perfectly organized, so perfectly arranged, that there has to be a supreme intelligence that's organized beyond human. It's just absurd that everything is all perfectly organized, and then behind that, it just happened by chance. It just doesn't make any sense. So that's the main. Prabhupada, and he spoke about that. That was his main focus in the last couple of years, that to reestablish scientific theology, scientific knowledge that God is real, God is a person. And Prabhupada, he sacrificed so much of the money from the Prabhupada's books. Then he was using that. There was a profit of selling Prabhupada's books and using that for scientific preaching Krishna consciousness in a scientific way, scientific way. That was his one of his main missions in the last. You've got to prove to people, show people that there's a supreme personality of God, the original. Okay. Yeah. Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada